afraid of 7, 'cause 7 ain't 9.
I am outside and it's pretty windy today and it's almost time to go down and to see the sunset. But anyway, I am outside because I want to talk about numbers. And I'm not going to talk about just numbers like 342, but I'm going to talk about more of numbers a long time ago when they were trading things. That's how they came up with numbers. They came up with numbers like, okay, 1, you owe me this, or I do this, or I'm going to give you this for this. But then eventually they kind of thought like, hey, what happens if I give somebody something and they don't give it to me yet because maybe it's a pig and it hasn't grown up yet. It's like he owes me a pig. Then they figure out, hey, wait a second. If you owe somebody something, how are we going to show that as a number? And that means you don't have it. It means you still owe it. It means that it's less than 0. So I'm going to show you some of the numbers that are less than 0. You might have done this already. If not, you need to, I bought brand new sidewalk chalk. My brand new sidewalk chalk. Put a line together. Alright, so I have my number line, and this would be like a normal number line that you've seen before. So this would go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 8. So if I wanted to stand at 5, this would be the number 5. My foot, stand at 2, that's number 2. Stand at 8, that's number 8. And 0 is 0. We're not just doing those kind. We're doing numbers that you would owe. And that actually would be like a temperature. We think about temperatures a lot of if it's below 0. So if a temperature is below 0, it means it's colder than what we use at 0. I don't think they were thinking about when they're like, oh, it's -4. I don't think they thought it was going to be that cold because it doesn't make sense why you would have a -4 below what. But anyway, that's how I think of it. If it's 4 below 0, it would take 4 to get up to 0. If it's 10 below 0, it would take 10 to get up to 0. And we can show that in the number line too because it's less than 0. The extra awesome part is when I just put those together. Two people who are walking out to see the sunset went by and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm a teacher, it's okay. Like, should we call the people who own that house? I'm like, it's me. Anyway, that's my number line. And anything below 0 is going to be how much you owe. So if I wanted to say it was -3, that means it's 3 below 0 because it's like 1, 2, 3 spaces below 0. If it's -6, it would be 6 spaces below 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 spaces below 0. So that's how we could see how the numbers work. Now, one thing I do want to tell you is that when you write down the negative numbers, it's best to write them down like this. I have all my fancy new chalk. So that would be the number 3. But if I want to make it -3, I put the negative sign. We say it's -3. It's not -3. The negative sign goes up. If a minus sign would be right about there, it's not minus. It's negative. So we raise that up a little bit. So it'd be like -5. So we raise those things up. Sometimes people say that the negative means the opposite of, and that'll help us later on. So the opposite of, but we can figure some opposites. So if I'm at 5, what's the opposite of 5? Oh, I didn't do it. -5. I should do that a little bit easier. So what's the opposite of -2? 2. The opposite of -4, or opposite of 4? -4. So that's what the opposite means. And there's one other thing that they have us do, and they have us understand that or to learn it because it makes it easier later on when you're going to, there's some rules that you can make if you want to, if it's interpret rules as algorithms. And that is something called the absolute value. And the absolute value, all it means is how far away from 0 it is. So if I call it the absolute value of -3, how far away from 0 it is? 1, 2, 3. So it's 3. The absolute value of 5, how far away from 0 is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The absolute value of -2, 1, 2. Absolute value of 8, how far away from 0 it is? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So all of those. And that's the absolute value. So when you see the absolute value, the sign is just a really long line. So if I put it in here, so super long lines on both sides of it, that means what's the absolute value of -3. So it's just really long lines. Absolute value of -3. So if I'm here, how far away is -3 from 0? 1, 2, 3 spaces. So the absolute value of -3 is 3. On this one, the absolute value of -5, how far is it from 0? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Absolute value of -5 is 5. The absolute value of 4. Now that one's weird because some people think it is the absolute value of 4 would be like -4. It's not. You can't have negative spaces away from 0. It would be just 4 spaces away. So the absolute value of 4 is just 1, 2, 3, 4. It's how many spaces away from 0. So that's absolute value. I think that's pretty much what we have for positive and negative numbers. A little later on, we're going to figure out how you put some together. But you really need to know that numbers, these would be like whole numbers, and their opposites, they have a fancy name. And what we would sometimes call like negative numbers. So the whole numbers go from 0 up forever. And 0 and down, and it keeps getting smaller and smaller forever. Even though it seems like the numbers are going up, they're not. It just keeps getting smaller. Think about it, it gets colder as you go. They have a fancy name. So the whole numbers and their opposites have a name. They are integers. You can guess, if you have sidewalk talk, you're going to make one of these. And you'll be a little teaching video, and you'll have to turn it into weed. Yes. Okay. And hopefully it's not windy, so you'll be able to do it. And if you don't have sidewalk chalk, and your parents aren't okay with it doing out there, just do it on a piece of paper or something. What are you doing? What are you doing? What? Oh, just helping you out. Clean up the driveway a little bit. What if I wanted that for later? What? Well, just make a new one. Sidewalk chalk. Oh, by the way, what's with your hair today? And knock it off about the hair. It's windy out. Don't you think you should hurry up at the sun setting? Why don't you go take a look at the sun setting? Okay? Oh yeah, by the way, you have any snacks?